Okay. So we're going to make some changes to the agenda. We do have online Councillors Duran, McLeod, and Bernard. Correct?
Correct, Bishop.
So we have quorum, full. Okay, call to order. Any? Okay. Whoever is watching the live stream, can you mute your mic? Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any? Seeing none. Approval of agenda. So we have for A, B, C, and D. Mr. Kelly, for the two utility resolutions, what do you want to do with them?
Again, if council wishes tonight, if not, they can be put on till the next meeting, Bishop.
Move to the regular monthly meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
right.
so we can, I'm just going to go through the whole change. What about A, planning resolutions and bylaw reading, Mount Everett Road, PID numbers are there, and the traffic study?
So there are some members of council who wish to move Mount Everett Road PIDs to the next meeting of council, Bishop.
Next, like the regular monthly meeting or a special meeting?
The next meeting of council, Bishop.
Okay, traffic study, we'll get that. Just one second, I just wanted to, Councillor,
Do you have to vote on that?
no,
Yes.
Councillor, I'll just explain, we're gonna just put the, what we want all in one package and then vote on that. Or do you wanna go item by
I
item?
don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
What's the other one?
So the ICIP, we
You have to
should
do that?
We should do that one under the way, your worship, and the one for North River Parkway, again, due to timing, again, it's up to council, but if that could be dealt with, then that could be underway as to your worship.
Okay, so any other changes? Councillor Tweed.
Sorry.
Okay, oh, sorry, sir, you got one?
There's two things, Bishop. Our legal is here for an item in closed session, as is engineer, and if you wish to go and deal with those issues, then we can reduce our costs a little bit from them hanging around, Bishop.
So, do they have to move into a closed session for
those issues.
traffic study?
No, not for the one here, your worship. No, that's a different issue.
Well,
Go ahead, sir.
okay, so let's go back to A, Mount Everett Road. What does that consist of? Is that Sherwood Crossing?
That's the Sherwood Crossing.
Okay, well, I
No, that's been proposed to delay it.
delay it.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
we just
could
get
delay it to.
till the next meeting.
Okay, well, I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay.
It's more than just delaying it.
Yeah, well, then you'll have to wait for the next meeting, then you can bring them up. Any other issues?
What?
Any other changes?
Well, yeah, with regards to these special meetings of council,
Yeah.
yeah, I can tell you that I've been contacted by some of our residents, and some of the residents are questioning, as well as members of council, why are we having all these special meetings of council when these issues should be dealt with at the regular monthly meetings of city council? It's become too cumbersome. It's unprecedented, the amount of special committee meetings, and the residents are bewildered as to why this is happening. So a lot of these issues here should be dealt with at the regular monthly meeting. I believe that a lot of councilors feel the same way, that there's no need for this to be happening. We're already inundated with committee meetings. As it is now, there's more than ever. I thought with these recent changes to the committees that some of these issues were going to be dealt with. They weren't dealt with. Actually, it's gotten worse. So I think that from here on in, I'd like to recommend that if we are to have a special meeting in council, it's on a Monday night. One extra special meeting of council during the month, and that's it. All these other issues should be dealt with at the regular monthly meeting of city council. That's why we have the regular monthly meetings of city council.
Okay, so just for now, can we look at the changes? We have number 4B, two utility resolutions. That'll be moved till the regular monthly meeting, correct? And ISIP, Northridge, and up to 2 and 4A, Mr. Kelly, which one are we leaving?
The traffic study May Point is on. The other one can be bumped until the next meeting, Your Worship.
I thought you wanted to take the traffic study and send that back to
No,
the
that's
planning board.
that's a different,
Okay.
but that's done by council, Your Worship. That's done by council.
Okay. So can we agree to that, to those changes?
Okay, where's that going?
Which one, the traffic study?
The traffic study and PIN numbers
Yeah, that's in the next meeting.
390559, and 390542.
So
Where's that going?
You got the traffic study.
Yeah, I know we got
So
the traffic
you
study.
didn't have time to read it, because
No.
it just came in late.
Yeah.
So from now until the next meeting,
Yeah,
you'll have time to read it. No?
No, there's two different traffic issues, Your Worship. So let's deal with this agenda first. 4AI, the first one,
It's
Mount
gonna be
Edward
removed.
Road.
It's
is
deferred.
Deferred till the next meeting of
Correct.
council.
Deferred.
The traffic study dealing with Maypoint Road is here for council direction, and that should go fairly quick. The 4B is gone. 4C should be fairly quick as well, and D
Yeah.
should be fairly quick as well, Your Worship.
Just to clarify, the SDU and area vacant lands, that's to be dealt with tonight? We're dealing with that tonight?
I'm sorry, Your Worship.
I have CBCL, SDU and area vacant lands, transportation master plan?
So that's in the closed session, Your Worship.
That's in closed session.
Yeah.
okay,
And
so,
that's a discussion one council did in that area, Your Worship.
okay, so.
Good. So can we vote on, can we just vote on the changes,
No,
sir?
I've got a
No.
qualifier here. with
Yeah, on
regards to-
what issue?
On Mount Edward Road.
Yeah, that's
Got a
going to
qualifier.
be deferred.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting.
What are you
Not
suggesting?
deferred to go back to council. I brought up at a recent city council meeting that the community wants to be involved, they want to be engaged. They want to have the opportunities to have the traffic studies being present at a public meeting so that the residents would have the opportunity to come to the meeting, be able to ask the engineer, the presenter, questions about the traffic study, and become more knowledgeable.
Okay,
about
Counselor,
this
Counselor,
development.
just,
Another question, Richard.
yeah, the issue here is about approving the agenda, okay? So when that comes back at the next meeting, you can bring up those points.
All right.
Thank you.
So no surprises. Nobody's going to say to me at a later date.
No, we don't.
Okay, that's great.
So can we vote on the changes?
You need a motion on the floor, Richard.
Well, that's what I'm waiting to get approval of the agenda.
So somebody has to move it.
Moved by Councillor Rivard, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. All in favor, raise your hands. Councillor McLeod,
In favor.
Councillor Bernard,
Yes.
Councillor Duran.
Not in favor.
Okay, so 9-1. Okay,
And the other change, Richard, if we could, again, dealing with legal and the
Yeah,
engineer.
we'll
to
get
move
them out of here as quick as possible.
Into closed session at the onset, Your Worship.
let's deal with the 4A. Do you want to do Mount Everett Road, or traffic study? You want to deal with that first?
I thought we
I thought we just said we were going into closed session first.
No, this is the traffic study. at,
No. Guys.
Maypoint, at Maypoint.
I knew that.
I know, but the ISIP, we're just going to get these done right now, if it's all right with you guys. Just stay in the closed, open meeting. These are open meeting issues. ISIP and Northridge Parkway.
You're the mayor.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask if there's, Mr. Kelly, do you have the resolution for that?
No resolution, Your Worship. The ISEP is, as you recall, Your Worship, we were
It's in the package.
asked by the province to allow them to take the balance of the transit funds, approximately $12 million, and put them into the COVID program in terms of the restart, Your Worship, as you're aware. And the committee has met, reviewed the needs of the city and Stratford and Cornwall. Our funds are secure in the funding formula. The province has agreed to plan for the electric buses and the needs we will have as the outcome of that. So there is a balance of about $12 million left in the transit funds, which we do not believe we'd be able to expend in time. And so the province has asked us to let those go. To date, Cornwall and Stratford has already agreed to let those go, but it's here for council to also to agree, hopefully, to let it go, and then the province can deal with those as they wish, Your Worship.
And the backgrounder is the last page of your open booklet. And just as Mr. Kelly said, revising the draft project budget to ensure that adequate funds were allocated. The updated budget is now $23.8 million, and that's for the electric fleet renewal and electrification program.
And we did change the slight ownership, it's up to about 24.8, which leaves a balance of around 12 million to put back into the program. Your
Are
Worship.
you adding that 1.2 million from the other
The
fund?
committee did meet, it's part of the transit fund, Your Worship. The committee spoke about that, as did the transit committee, and we revised our needs for the future, upgraded it, and those will be sent to the province as well. But the other remaining 12 approximately is going to be released, Your Worship.
Questions? Question called. So do you want a resolution on that, sir?
Just to, if you can, from the floor, Your Worship, if move, and we'll put it down on paper, Your Worship.
Yeah.
I'll move.
To approve?
So move that the ISIP public transit.
The balance.
Just use the recommendation.
The balance of the funds to be released back to the province, Your Worship.
Yeah, so that's right. So moved by Councillor McKay,
So just a
No, it's
question.
Greg Rivard.
Councillor Rivard, seconded by Councillor McKay. Okay, while it's being written up there, Councillor Wheel,
So the monies goes back to the province, right?
under the COVID-19 resilience.
COVID-19. So, okay, so where is the money that the province is going to recruit from this resolution? Where are they going to spend the money?
It goes to the COVID-19 resiliency fund, so
So it just goes into a general fund.
it goes into the resiliency fund. So that's used for providing more physical distance in schools,
Okay.
hospitals.
Okay, so
It's
so it's going to be eliminated, if I understand. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So it's going to be eliminated from the transit, financial resource for us to continue on an annual basis and for our needs in terms of replacement and amenities and other infrastructure needs when it comes to the transit. So what's the plan to recoup that money as we move along?
So the last paragraph, it says revising the draft project budget. Mr. Kelly said that instead of 23.8 million, it's going up to 24.8 million, Mr. Kelly?
It's approximately, it's
Another
just under
million?
25, it's about $1.8 million.
And that's part of the fleet renewal and electrification program. And if you go to the next page, part of our ask to the province that the annual provincial fund of $180,000 that has been there since 2012 hasn't risen, considering CPI increases and so forth. We're asking that it go up to 230,000. It is proposed that the CATCC request a new provincial subsidy be valued at 350,000. And that's very important for the operation of the transit.
Although that's
So-
not part of these funds.
No, I know, but it's just part of our ask.
Okay, that's great. So, Mr. Kelly, I need you to help me with clarification as well. So, the replacement or the monies that we hope to tap into at a later date, is that operational or is that capital?
The funds for the transit of approximately 24.8 is capital.
So it's all capital?
Correct.
And that is for fleet replacement, right?
Electrification.
That's correct, and that is cost shared between the feds, the province, Charlottetown, Stratford, and Cornwall.
Okay, and that's all electric?
That's where we're heading for.
We're heading that way.
No, but I mean, okay, we're not only heading for that,
Some
are we
of-
making a commitment?
We are making a commitment, but there are some of those funds that will be used for diesel in the interim, but for the long term, there is 12 electric buses as part of that program.
And
All
also,
electric? So how many diesel?
Right now, council already approved previously 6 diesel buses.
6. And how many minis do we have?
2, Your Worship.
6 and 2. Anyways, it's a good deal there, Mr. Councilor Tweed. Okay. Question? Any other questions? Question, comment? Yeah?
Yeah.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor McLeod, yea or nay?
In favor.
Councillor Bernard?
In favor.
Councillor Duran?
In favor.
Okay, 10-0. Okay. Next one is Northridge Parkway lighting.
Your worship. Thank you, Miss move on to discussion on 4A with the traffic study on Main Point. I think that wasn't removed off the agenda. You know, the Mount Everett Road was, but the other one wasn't. It'd be an easy discussion, I think, but.
Yeah, let's go with that.
You okay with that, Tim?
As long as you are, Councillor Trio.
So, I just wanted to keep going there, but do you want to go back to 4A and deal with that?
I just assumed that they would go in order, that's all.
Okay, well, I just wanted to keep this moving as quickly as possible because people want to get away. Okay, let's go to 4A. So 4A, traffic study, Main Point Road and Capitol Drive, PIN number 387365. Councillor Duffy, do you want to introduce it?
I'll be quick, Your Worship. Last Friday, we met for the first time on the new committee of planning, and the intent was to review a recent new look at the traffic study for this particular operation at Main Point. The intent was to consider the new study or the relook at the existing study with some additional information. As it turned out, by the time the meeting ended, that we really didn't deal with that. What we dealt with, the committee was of the opinion that it would be beneficial to move the whole issue to a public consultation event. That vote was taken, and by a 4-2 count, it won the day. So that was the wish of the committee at that time. Mr. Forbes asked our solicitor for a legal opinion because he was quite concerned that we weren't acting within the present bylaw that we work with. And sure enough, we had a reply to our request of the legality of holding a public meeting to address such things as the queuing up of traffic to a drive-in restaurant or drinking establishment. The opinion stated that under section 43.8.1 bracket B closed bracket of the bylaw, it restricted City Council to garner or obtain advice on these sorts of issues strictly to the Public Works Department of the city, the Charlottetown City Police Force, or if so desired, a public consultant, traffic consultant. So therefore, we are really not supposed to, and the fear is that we may be taken to task by some review groups when they find that we had done that sort of thing after being told really we didn't have the authority. Therefore, Your Worship, I'd like to move tonight, and I think I have the support of the two movers and seconder at the meeting to rescind that resolution, and we will move back into the planning board and further discuss, and we'll be back.
So right now, you're just moving this, referring it back to planning.
Planning.
That is your motion.
Planning board.
Yeah. Okay, so can we put the resolution, and the resolution is being moved by Councillor Yankoff?
The one tonight is being moved by myself and Councillor McKay.
Okay. So the resolution is to rescind, to go into a public meeting on the studies. Any comments? Okay. Councillor Yankoff, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I just received this legal opinion just a few minutes ago. So I wouldn't mind some clarification from you, Karen. I'm just a bit perplexed that we aren't able to do something like this, and I'm sure you'll be able to clarify it for me.
Councillor, do you have a copy of this? The legal opinion? I don't think Councillor Twill has a copy of the legal opinion. You have one there? Here, you can take one. No, I have a motion.
This is nothing to go over, it's just a synopsis.
Yeah. It's not a legal opinion?
Yes, Your Worship, it's a synopsis, not an opinion.
Okay. Do you want to speak to it? Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll try to do it in kind of a Reader's Digest version. So under the bylaw, in various places within the bylaw, council sets out for itself a process to get to a conclusion. Okay? And in this particular instance, as Councillor Duffy pointed out, the process is set out in 43.8.1. Okay? And it says, it tells you as a council what you have decided that you should take into account in making your decision on this particular kind of an issue. the difficulty with then saying, okay, in addition to taking into account the things that I have said that I'm going to take into account, I'm also going to hold a public meeting and receive a host of views, presumably from people in the public. And then the question will become, if you're challenged on your decision, well, did you take all that information into account? Because you've said in the bylaw that you're going to take into account information that you've received from a traffic consultant and or your police and public works department. And one of the principles of having a decision of council overruled or overturned is that you have taken into account irrelevant considerations, and that has actually tainted your judgment on the opinions and or the information that you've received from the sources that you've said that you're going to take into account. Does that clear?
Yeah, I don't like it, but I don't like it, but I totally understand it.
Sure, and in the opinion that was rendered, Mr. Hooley pointed out at the end that if council wants to have this added to the process, then the most prudent thing to do would be to amend the bylaw to say that you can do that, as you've done in other areas. There are like 6 or 7, maybe, I think 6 or 7 different areas in the bylaw where you said, yes, we will take this issue to a public meeting. Now, recognize that, once you put it in there, it means that every time you're going to do this kind of an issue, you're going to have to go to a public meeting. I think you'd have to weigh, that's a political decision, not mine, but it would be difficult to draft it to say that council, sometimes you will and sometimes you won't. So I guess you just have to figure out sort of what's the best way to deal with issues like this. But again, that would be more of a...
If your worship, if I could just have it reflected in the minutes that not only did Karen give an excellent explanation on that, but if we could reflect that we will look at this, because certain things like this are very, very important and unique.
In terms of public meetings,
public meetings and the bylaw, if we could just note that in the minutes that's something that I would like to see us have a look at.
Yeah, and I think you want to bring it up at the next planning committee meeting, correct?
Yes, that would be great.
Council and staff. Do you want to add anything before we ask Councillor Tweel? You're all right, Alex?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Tweel, you have the opinion there in front of you?
Well, I'm trying to understand what Karen said. I think I'll defer to future discussion.
Any other questions? Okay, question for the deferral? Or rescinding the call to a public meeting?
To refer it back to planning for reconsideration, Worship.
Question, Councillor Ramsey?
No.
Okay, all those in favor, please put up your hands. Okay. Councillor McLeod?
In favor.
Councillor Duran?
In favor.
And Councillor Bernard?
In favor.
Okay. Okay. Northridge Parkway lighting. Ooh, Councillor McLeod, do you want to take that, or do you, Councillor Duffy?
I'll leave to Councillor.
So it's moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Duffy, Your Worship, that as per the conditions of the public tender for Northridge Parkway lighting replacement, the submission of Hanson Electric in the amount of $106,500 plus all applicable taxes be accepted, Your Worship.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Your Worship.
Councillor Braun, can I just go with the deputy first and then you're next?
Sure.
Okay? Councillor, Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering why we would go with old-fashioned street lanterns. Like, why wouldn't we just use the Northern Maritime electric poles like we have throughout the city except for the downtown?
Do we have Mr. Scott here?
I can answer that, Your Worship.
Who can answer that? Okay, but get him also. Councillor Bernard?
Yeah. So on that side of the road, the reason we had asked for this was on the right-hand side of the road on Northridge going in, there is no lights. That's the sidewalks, and there's two transit shelters, bus stops. And so in Hillsborough Park, a lot of the lights, the poles are in the backyard. So on this side of the road, there is no poles or lights there. So we were looking for these old-fashioned lights to go from the historic house, Belmont House, down the street to Westcombe. So it's about 9 to 11 poles is what it is. It's on one side of the road. So whenever they did the subdivision in Hillsborough Park in the early 70s, they tried to put a lot of the electrical poles in the backyards. And so what they do is they bring the power from the pole to the backyard out to the front. On your street, that's on the left-hand side. There's nothing on the right-hand side. And that's where the sidewalks are, and that's where the transit shelters are.
Deputy?
But again, why wouldn't we just ask Maritime Electric to put in poles? If they're not in the right place, or if they're in people's backyards and the sidewalk's not lit up and there's transit spots there, just get Maritime Electric to put in the standard poles. Like, why would we go
With the heritage lamps?
Yeah. Like, what would be the cost of Maritime Electric to put in those lights?
That's what I want to know.
Probably more than this cost.
Scott, any estimated cost
For,
to go with your regular standard pole?
so with Maritime Electric poles, I'm not sure what the costs are to ask for additional pole, but for the light itself, we would be on par the rental month-to-month rate standard.
That we're paying now.
rate. But I'm not sure exactly what the cost would be per pole. I'm not sure.
But is that a city expense, or is that within the city, or is it Maritime Electric that provides the poles and the lights and we just pay a fee to them?
Your worship, so typically a street has already power lines, and so they take use of those existing lines because they need it for their infrastructure. But I believe if it's not a use for their infrastructure, if it's an additional request, those poles, I believe, would be paid for by the city. I'd have to confirm that, but I believe that's how the operation would work.
Your worship, and so how much money was in the budget for this project? I don't remember talking about this
Well,
project.
see, it came from two budget lines.
Okay, so how much
And it
was
came
it?
from street lighting, LED street light changeover, 75,000,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
And street lighting new installation, 75,000. And last year it was
So, Your Worship, if I may?
Yeah.
Your Worship? So in the capital budget, there was 75,000 for new lights. And that's usually under the department's operational. It's also 75,000 for replacement lights. So the 75,000 for new lights is what we've always used for any of the old-fashioned lanterns. So during the budget consultation was the 9 months ago now, and I did have conversations with the manager on, was there enough money? This was a project that we thought would be a good project for that area. They just finished doing a roundabout. They did the reconstruction of the whole area. This would light up that side of the street. And with the Heritage House, the Belmont House, and the short distance to go from there down the street, we're talking 9 to 11 poles. So the capital budget was passed, that money in it, as it has been every other year. And that's what's been used for every other year. So the tender documents were drawn up this twice. So it's been up for a month. And now the results are in, and we're asking council to use it on the lowest tender, and now we're questioning whether we want to even put what particular lights we want to use. I'm kind of surprised at this,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Scott,
I'm just wondering why we
Go ahead.
wouldn't use Maritime Electric lights and poles, Councillor Bernard, that's all. If this
Well, I
was,
think if you take a drive out there, Jason, you'll see it's easy to see what I'm talking about when you take a drive out there. And I know Councillor Duffy, I believe, took a drive out there yesterday. So you'll see on the right-hand side, you have the church, you have the used apartment buildings. You don't have power poles on that side. They're on the other side of the road in the backyards. So we would have to pay and have someone come in and put those new poles in, drill the holes, and you're going to run the power from the back of those people's yards across their properties, across the street to the other side. So this was probably cheaper and certainly looked more attractive.
so I guess that's the question, is it cheaper?
Scott,
Sorry.
is it cheaper to go with the Maritime Electric pole?
We never ran numbers for the Maritime Electric, so I'm not sure. Something to look at.
Scott, just to clarify, yesterday at the meeting, I thought you said it was going from the roundabout down to Andrews Court, the first intersection. Because I asked how many meters, and you said about 300 meters.
Yes, that was what was designed for
But
this.
Councillor Bernard is saying it's going from the roundabout down to Westcombe.
I believe in this package, and I can double check, but I believe it was the Andrew Court we went down
Yeah.
to.
And-
Yeah.
No, it pretty well starts at Andrews Court. It's going from Belmont House, which is right next to the intersection of Andrews Court, from Belmont House down to Westcombe.
And it's on both sides?
No, it's on one side.
Okay.
That's
And
why I say it's about 9 to 11 poles.
Councillor Duffy, oh wait, no, sorry, Councillor Duran, then Councillor Duffy. Councillor Duran,
I just, you know, I understand. Took a drive down there myself. I've seen some lights there. They're fairly high up. But I just have to question, like, are we going to go with this as a standard? Like, you know, if we have some lights in different wards, you know, is this what we're going with, the old-fashioned lantern lights? You know, if you need more lights, I understand that. If it's a safety concern, go with the poles like in every other ward. I just don't understand why we're going to make the move to old-fashioned lanterns in a certain area and not in every other area of the city. That's my concern.
Well, I guess I would answer that and say, you know, one of the things is we have a historic home there in the Belmont House. And, you know, to me, it beautifies the area. You're coming off St. Peter's Road and is it going to cost more than having American Electric come and drilling the poles and one of the running wires across the street? I think it will, but you know what, regardless. Do we want to all sit here and say, you know, we don't want to try and improve our area? Or is this a Hillsborough Park thing? Because you know what, this was asked for 9 months ago. It went through due diligence. The guys put there for 10 twice. We're talking about 9 to 11 poles, and we're making a big issue over it. And we're trying. Our job is trying to improve the quality of life for our residents. We're trying to improve our different areas of reward. So I'm not sure why we're stuck on this. But I can tell you that is it safety? Yeah, it is. Do we need some light? Yeah, we do. There is 2 transit stops there. There is sidewalks there. We have seniors in our areas too that are trying to get from A to B. So, and you know, this has gone through, like I said, it's gone through the process. It's been in for tender twice. It's been in for a month, and nobody's brought anything up until now. It's been in the public domain for a month, and now I'm hearing this. And it just seems to me every time I try to get something here for parks, somebody's got a problem with it.
Okay. Councillor Duffy?
Can I respond to that first?
Yes, you can.
Okay, you know, no one's questioning. We all are here for our reward and for the betterment of the city of Charlottetown. We all understand that. What I'm saying is a fair playing field and a standard that what is good for everybody in everybody's ward. Like, if we're going to go with old-fashioned light poles from here on in, well, let's go with them. But let's not pick and choose where we go. If it's a standard for everybody, then let's go with the standard. You know, I know there's some places in my ward and everybody else's ward that doesn't have proper lights. I understand that you want safety for that area. Nobody's questioning where it's going. The only thing I'm questioning is a standard for everybody. And every councillor, every ward, you know, let's make it equal across the board. That's what it is. So thank you again for your time.
Councillor Duffy?
Thank you, Your Worship. As Councillor Bernard alluded to, I did take a visit out to see what's going on out there. I visit a lot of places. It gives you a better appreciation than reading from a package of what you think may be going on out there. I was out there this morning. Councillor Drong indicated he was also out for a view, or a tour. It's the weirdest situation I ever saw, to tell you the truth. It's the main drag into the area, and it's a wide street. These poles that they're on, I would prefer to see what's there taken down and take a whole new rush at it, because, as Councillor Bernard said, you drive down the street and there's lights for 9 or 10 on one side, and then there's none on the other side, of course, and then there's 5 or 6 on the other side, and they go for a while, and then there's 3 or 4 over there, and then they come back over here. I mean, and they're high, and they're spaced quite a distance apart. I don't know how effective they would be for senior people at night out for a little stroll. I'm no expert on lighting, but it just seems it's not adequate. But so I can see there's a need for the basic lighting part of it. When it comes down to the cosmetic part, everybody likes to have their ward dressed up a little bit, and I mean, that's not a moral sin, I don't think. Let's look at ditch infilling. We spent $35 million on ditch infilling, and what is it? It's cosmetic. We have another $15 million waiting in the wings, and so therefore, I don't condemn anybody. I agree with Councillor Drong. if he wants to take the initiative and request the city and the city budget, and any councillors here, Yankoff or Cody or Tweel, go ahead, ask at budget time and lobby for it and get it going. It's dressing up your ward. We do it in other ways, so I don't have a big problem here, but I do agree that it should be an unwritten policy that we will entertain that for different people.
Yeah.
I
asked for the deferral.
Something?
I asked for the deferral, no, the deferral was asked
Yeah.
because of some of the questions. I don't remember it being discussed at Public Works or at capital budget, because I know one thing was discussed, and I was in Ottawa, it went from water to ice.
Yeah,
So-
I think the line item was discussed, and there was money put in the line item for the purchase, repairs, and maintenance of LED lights or something to that effect.
That's there, $75,000.
$150,000. But I mean, that happens a lot. I mean, in Public Works, especially with a $15,000 budget, there's allotment out, for certain equipment. It's not really named as what it is, but there's money there to get it as the need arises. And, so.
I have to go to Councillor, first Councillor Rivera's been waiting.
Thank you, Worship. Do we have a policy in place, Scott, that talks about the, heritage homes in Charlottetown? I mean, I know heritage just doesn't only exist downtown. There's some, like Councillor Bernard just said, there's some in East Royalty, there's some in West Royalty. Is there a policy in place that says that if we are replacing lights of this nature, and if there are heritage homes or places, that these types of lights, will be installed, or can be installed, or should be installed? Or is it just basically, I just wonder if there's any kind of guidelines in place to say where these should and shouldn't be?
Your Worship, at this time, no, there are no, in Public Works, there are none for this. At Heritage Homes, there may be something under planning, but I'm not aware of it.
We're always waiting for the 500 lots. Okay, Councillor Ramsey, then
If I
back
may?
to Councillor Bernard. I just want to go with Councillor Ramsey, then we'll come back to you. Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you.
I sat in Public Works yesterday the first time, and when this come up yesterday, and what I heard is that it was already passed for the capital budget and everything. And I agree with a lot of their comments, but at the same time, if it's already passed, I mean, why are we sort of beating ourselves up over it?
It was passed for $75,000 to replace lights and LED replacements. Councillor Bernard?
Yeah, I just wanted to just touch on what Councilor Wright said, and that's always been my impression over the years. Whenever we did these heritage lights, it had to do with heritage properties nearby, and using the Belmont House as a heritage property. That's what gave the drive for this. So,
Okay.
but I think if there's a policy not made, then you make a policy and you use heritage properties as part of it.
Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, I think we have to be
I think
careful,
we're getting off track.
setting standards, because I know that there's many wards that are still waiting for their ditches to be infilled from years ago. My concern, and it's not the location, Councillor Bernard, or the desire for you wanting to improve your ward. I think it's admirable. I would be interested to see what the price difference is, and maybe capital budget was approved. My question would be, who decided the location? How was that decided? I'd be curious just to know why Northridge Parkway at this time. If it's a safety thing, that's great, but I think again, we could look at what is the price differential. We spent a couple meetings ago talking about being in a pandemic and looking how we could save taxpayers' money in our overflow fund. Is it a $106,000 necessity? Is it a safety issue in your opinion that those are the best lights for this area?
Is it a want or a need?
Pardon?
Is it a want or a need?
Well, I'm just kind of wondering, if you could answer that for me.
Your Worship, so we are aware there are some dark spots in this area. It is a wide street, so the lighting makes it, there are some dark spots and does have a safety concern. As for location, as has been alluded to, I am told it was discussed during budget time at this location, and with the budget set, I was told that was the location selected.
Thank you. And I guess that
And
would
if I could add something, what I'm going to do there, Your Worship.
Councillor, just 1 second. I got Councillor Okay, did you?
No, I did, yeah, my follow-up to that was, yeah, because I don't recall discussing location or anywhere at budget time either. But I would be interested to see what the price differential would be before I'd be really willing to vote on this.
Councillor Yankoff, you've been waiting patiently.
Well, if he needs to follow up first, go ahead, because if.
You want to let me go? You're going to
Yeah.
yield to Councillor
Yeah,
Bernard?
just because. it's-
Councillor Bernard.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, I know, it's just interesting, I hear, when you're talking ditch income, is it a wish or, is it a wish or a want? I guess I'm looking at these lights, and we're having a great discussion over whether they should go there or not, and, I feel it's a safety issue, I think the Reds feel it's a safety issue, we need some light. But yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if it's a ditch income, if it's a wish or a want, because I guess to me, what I'm looking at, more of a want than it is a need.
My point was
So
about
that'll be
the
interesting
standards.
stuff for next year.
Okay. Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too took a drive out there this morning, and if anyone else hasn't been out there, it is such a weird setup. The road is wide. I wasn't there when it was dark, but with no lights there, I can imagine that it would be. I was intrigued with Belmont House, so the historical nature of it does seem very fitting and very unique, and it does make you feel very community-minded. But I would just like to note again in our minutes.
Public
record, that we look at this for other wards too, because I'm sure that Councillor Duran or Councillor Cody would probably have some areas there that could really give, and Councillor McKay, an area that they could too take advantage of the same thing. And maybe we do need to look for long-term, some sort of a policy around it. But for this, I mean, we've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole. We've already got quotes, and it's been out to tender twice, so I would tend to support this.
And we've done, Scott, Mr. Adams, we've done the engineering.
Correct.
That was done last August, did you say?
I believe it was around August when it was.
But it didn't have to come to,
No,
it was under 10,000.
Exactly.
Okay. Councillor Tweedle.
Yeah. So with these old-fashioned standards, that means the wires would be buried underground, correct?
That's correct.
Well, okay, that's great. I lobbied in the past for the old-fashioned lights to be installed on, you talk about historic properties. I can't think of a more historical street than Upper Prince Street.
Or University Avenue.
Well, I know, but Upper Prince Street, you know what? There's every home in that street. If you want to look at that street, that whole area is pretty historical. Right? So, I did make requests in the past, and they were never approved. I can tell you that I have discussions with Mr. Adams about the infrastructure work that needs to be done on Pond Street, which should have been done this year, wasn't done this year, should have been done this year. When you take into consideration all the students that are walking on that street, they're in no person's land, walking up and down that street. All you have to do is go down there at noon hour and watch it. Extremely dangerous. So I did suggest to Mr. Adams, with the conceptual design on Pond Street, that to make that street not only just a street, but I would even suggest burying the wires underground.
With heritage lights?
Pardon me?
With heritage lights too? Is that what
Well, you know what, heritage lights, but I want to make that a street that's a real destination. If you look at that street, for example, and we're doing comparisons here, and that's what this discussion is all about. If you look at comparisons, this street here is probably one of the busiest streets for both vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic. That liquor store, just from 10 o'clock in the morning till it ends.
Yeah, I know, Councillor Tweedle.
No.
Just stare back on, because
I
it's
understand that,
5:45.
but
We'll
we're
forward or
going to
against
have
it.
future discussions, right?
Yeah.
So I want this to be the prelude.
Okay, so.
Right, so, Mr. Adams, I have discussed with you all year long
Leave it.
about.
That's point of order.
Just 1 second. Are you done with that?
Is there a resolution on the floor or is it not?
Yeah. So the point of
So
order.
we can't have discussion. Okay.
No, the point of order has been heard. He's now concluded his point. Deputy Mayor Cody.
You were just
Last point?
Yes, and just to circle back to my original comment, it's not if we need lights, then we need lights. That's a no-brainer. It's not about that. All I'm asking is what would be the cost if we went with standard Maritime Electric poles and lights? And I can't get an answer from that, but I have the quote here from the old fashioned. If you want old fashioned, that's fine. It really, that's fine. It doesn't matter, but it'd be nice to have a cost analysis as to what we have throughout the city. That was my initial question. I haven't had an answer, and it's unfortunate that we have this in front of us. Councilor Bernard's right. If it's a safety concern and they need lights and there's sidewalks, I'm all for that, but I want to know what the alternative cost would have been. That's all.
Councillor Duffy.
And I imagine they're more expensive, Deputy, quite a bit more expensive. But that's not really a concern. But I just want to caution council is that we're talking 9 or 10 lights here. Don't go too hog wild now. At the rate of 9 or 10 lights per go, it's going to take an awful long time to light your ward in fancy lantern lights. So this is kind of a token move, the entranceway into this development. In recognizing the heritage feature of one of the homesteads that's pretty close by.
So Councillor Twill, this is your second time. Just to sum up so we can vote on it.
And that's great, Councillor Duffy. But all we've ever asked for was equality and fairness when it comes to the infrastructure. So hope we get the same support.
Well, Councillor Twill, there is a difference between 9 lights into Hillsborough Park and both sides of Prince Street being done from Houston down to Allen Street. There's a financial difference.
I understand that.
And that's what I'm cautioning.
I understand that.
Just finish up.
I did make the request in previous years, and there's no street in this city more historical than Upper Prince Street, particularly from Gerald up to Houston.
Councillor Twill, what was the price tag?
Yeah.
I never got, there was no consideration.
That's all right.
Wasn't entertained, Councillor Duffy.
Brighton Road is a pretty, very historical.
No more historical Upper Prince.
Any other comments? Or do we have a question call?
I have a question.
Question call, questions called. All those in favor, please put up your arm. Okay, so I have, okay, just one second. Keep your arms up, please. 1, 2, 3. You, McKay, Councillor McKay, you, okay. And Councillor Tweed, you're up, okay. And Councillor Duran? Yea or nay? Councillor Duran?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Councillor McLeod?
In favor.
Councillor Bernard?
In favor.
Councillor McKay? Okay. 7-3. Passed. Okay. 7-3. Good. Opposed?
No, it's 8 to 2,
Thank you.
Your Worship.
No. I heard Councillor Duran
Yes,
and Councillor McKay.
yes. that's-
Deputy? No.
No,
You're in favor? Okay. Sorry. 8-2. Okay. So now we can move into a closed session. Correct? Okay. We'll go into the closed session and I have it right here. Let me get something first. Let me sign.
Your Worship?
Can I just go into the closed session first? Is that all right? Okay, so I need a motion. Councillor Twin, are you going somewhere? Okay, thank you. I want to stay here. Motion to move into a closed session as per section 119, subsection 1A, D, and E of the Municipal Government Act of Prince Edward Island. And that would be moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Duffy. All those in favor? All those against? Close the doors.